All right. That's me. I got it. I'm here. This is Whit Eric. You want to introduce yourself, Whit?
I think you've said my name enough times. You probably figured it out by now, but I'm CEO of Hill Country Tech Guys and been doing IT and support services since like, what was it? 1999-ish, right? So I've been around set a lot of computers up.
And I'm Sarah Eric. I've only been in the IT industry for about 10 years job-wise and 15 years marriage-wise, as in I've been married to Whit for 15 years and he does not stop talking about tech at any point in the day. So I've been able to walk along. I think
you're just as guilty at this point, though. I don't think you're going to have to stop rolling that on me.
I've been able to learn by proxy a lot of the stuff that I get to talk about in here today, which is really exciting. And so that's us. To view any of our past webinars, you go to Hill Country Tech Guys, well, htechguys.com/blog, and there's a bunch of videos on there. There's videos about cybersecurity, remote workforce, like I stated. And we've chunked that out into a whole bunch of different ways. If you're just wanting to know about really anything strategic wise about it, go there, see if there's something, and if there's not, tell us, and we'll make one talking about whatever you need us to talk about or want to know about. For any specific questions, please enter them in the chat and we will try to address them as we move forward. So our 2022 IT strategy and outlook it is what it is. We're trying to get this information out as soon and quick as possible so that you guys can have these in your quarterly business reviews for 2022 strategic planning. So this is a really quick one. I'm going to let Whit talk about it and try to wait till 5 minutes here on talking about these, because we have tons of content about every single one of these things on our website. So Whit, if you can run through what we're talking about specifically here is a hybrid work environment, meaning that there is both on-site at an office space workers as well as remote workers working from their home.
Yeah, it really feels like COVID kind of let the cat out of the bag with letting people work from home, and I don't think we're ever going back. It's kind of become part of our lifestyle, and especially as we struggle to control COVID and all of its outlying problems, it's definitely changed the expectations from probably, I would predict forever, right? Challenge me on that, but I predict forever, right? So you got to ask, what is it going to take to be ready for this change, this environment? What tools do we need, right? And that's where we kind of got this little list, right? It's cloud is king, AKA, is your network, is your environment cloud enabled? Can your users get to their data anywhere, anytime, securely and effectively, right? Monitoring, right? As we've already experienced in our business. I bet you've hired people now that you've never seen in person, right? And you've just literally, you hired them potentially and said, all right, go here and log in and start working, right? So being able to monitor that person for either, do they get it, or do they actually being malicious, or, whatever. We just heard a situation where somebody had 2 jobs, that's cool, right? Trying to do 2 jobs from home at the same time didn't work out, Anyway, having the productivity tools that bring that to light, and a lot of people think it's just literally screen captures. That is old school. You need to be able to have the tool tell you how they're doing by what applications they're in, the time of day they're working, breaks in their activity, and what applications they're running, right? It should kind of guide you to help you find out problems without you literally trying to watch every employee's every move to determine if they're effective or not. It does increase security risk, right? There's different ways to mitigate that, but you're basically extending your work network into every single one of these people's homes, and that's a risk right there. And there's ways to mitigate it. We talk about a lot of that. Everybody today, when you're going to hire them, is, can I work from home? What is your policy? What are your procedures? Having that backup documentation around this is very important, so the expectations are clear. And then, collaboration tools, they can make or break you, right? You don't want to let your team just create their own solution. You want to control it. You want to know where the data is and how it goes, right? So running that relationship is very important.
Yeah, I wanted to mention back on the recruiting, because I know there's a big talk about labor shortage and that it's not going to be going away anytime. And so the labor industry is actually the service people themselves are demanding remote work. and people that are not offering it in some way, shape, or form, they're saying are going to have they're going to even have a harder time recruiting in the next year. So we've definitely taken that to heart and considered what we need to be doing, because the last thing that you want to do is just say, sure, you can start working, and I guess you're going to work from home. You want to have a plan. You want to have the processes set up beforehand, before that person ever starts that.
Funny thing that popped in my head here, because you know me, I can't stay on topic, but I saw an ad for this little device you buy, and you put your liquor bottles in the top and your mix-ins, and it's a at-home bartender for you, right? So, you know, as the poor bars are closed now, or, you know, they're, you know, people don't want to go because they're worried about infection. They've literally made a device that'll make your drinks for you, because, you know, apparently it's that complicated. But it's interesting how that industry is pivoting now to where we have these little robotic bartenders you can sit on your table and say, you know, make me a Jack and Coke or whatever. And it's going to make a drink for you automatically, right? So anyway, it's interesting how these industries are all pivoting around this change. And I think that's just a small example of one way.
So the effects of AI and big data on small businesses. This is something that we talk about a lot, but it's not something that is in our house to do or fix. But we do advise and we talk to clients a lot about it. And it's basically having data run your company. Looks so much more than Excel sheets now than it ever has. And in the future, that's really going away. It's real-time reporting that people are wanting, and access to their softwares that they currently have, open APIs, and a way for clients, for companies to be able to pull real data about the status of what they're doing, about the status of what's going on.
I'd back up, and I'd
okay.
say, like, you know, we got to stop making decisions. Like, literally, I'm thinking about tools for my business. My number one ask these days is, how can I get the data? How can I slice the data? How up to date is the data? And what can I connect it to? I don't really care what it costs as much anymore, because I know that the value of the product is going to be how I can manage the data. So, you know, looking at some of the older, back in, you know, 5-6 years ago, everybody, literally, it was in the ULAs that the doctors are not allowed to access the data inside their EMR. Well, the Congress just changed that, especially for doctors. It's now illegal for the user license agreement to limit the doctor's ability to get to it. So now you're starting to see these companies come in there, connect into your SQL database, and start slicing and dicing your data for you. And it's going to open up your mind. You're going to be able to see, you know, what time of day you get the best patients, you know, how many times your patients are coming back. Like, you know, there's no way you can get every report on your own. But then now I can go ahead and connect that data maybe to marketing or to something else. I mean, to your phone system, to your payroll, and track your most productive doctors or MAs or nurses or manufacturing line or whatever, right? So the openness of data is creating a new industry, and it's gonna go nuts. And I think there's some guys are going to be laggers on this technology, and they're going to suffer. And then there's some guys that are totally adopting it, and they publish their APIs. They literally feel like they're leading with the API. Like, what do? Well, we have an open API and we collect your data. Like, and I think that's what you're going to see, and you're going to need to be awesome in the near future. You're going to have to get more out of it. So, yeah.
Yeah, for those of you that knows WIT, this is WIT excited about something, and that's why this is really exciting to us, because of the possibilities and people being able to make such decisions quicker and faster for their companies. And the other part that's even in addition to this is automation tools that are being able to integrate into certain softwares that they're and some are just very rudimentary, but they're being used, like Zapier, if you've ever heard of it, which they can do really crazy things just because of these open APIs and accesses to different things. So if this is not something that you've challenged within your company of how you can be utilizing this to really launch your company to the next place and be able to give your leadership quicker data, but also being able to make decisions in a faster pace, I would definitely start talking about that amongst your leadership, and phone in our account managers for sure to say, where do we start looking at what we can even do?
Yeah, I would recommend, at a minimum, if you're looking at a new time clock software, I don't care, does it have an open API? If you're not ready to use it now, that's totally fine. But make sure you're not getting boxed into something that's not modern and open like that, or has a program in place or something, because you're gonna want it. You're gonna, you know, start thinking about, you'll find ways to slice and dice. So.
And we have a number of these clients. Again, this is not something that we have in with our wheelhouse. We just work with our clients and other vendors that do these types of things. And we have quite a few of them that are building up their own softwares because of this and all that kind of stuff. It's all about just getting that data and being able to use it. And we are highly encouragers of it because this does have a very large potential to completely transform a business. Budgeting for IT. I don't know if any of you guys saw my newsletter that went out there, but we are, like everybody else in the world right now, experiencing major shortage on services. And on top of that, the bigger thing that I want to talk about is how what's happening to the IT world, and that the IT tools are being the main targets for cybersecurity attacks. So just any tool that anybody uses to do IT, the prices are going to be skyrocketing in the next year as IT companies and their tool sets are, it's mostly their tool sets, are really focusing on how to lock down security so that they're not infiltrating and being utilized in the grand scheme of world. That's one of the items that's on there. But the other item that we're really, really hoping that everybody pays attention to is the hardware shortage. And at the beginning, we thought this hardware shortage was going to last till 2022 quarter1, but now they're predicting that this is going to go all the way into 2025. And what it means is that,
talk a little bit about it for you, and I
Go.
did some little recon on this one because I was curious myself.
Shocking.
I think our initial instinct was to assume that there was a hardware shortage because they were having a hard time making the hardware, making the chips, making, like, you know, I think the automotive industry is trying to make it feel like there's a shortage. Well, what actually happened is, particularly automotive, is they wrote in and cut their orders. They said, we don't need as many orders, right? They don't need it, whatever. And then what happened is the manufacturers retooled to manufacture other chips. And now those guys are in the way of the manufacturers getting the chips they want, because the way this equipment works are done in batches of millions of chips, and they literally have to retool to make a different chip. And what we've seen happen is the vehicle market shrank and the consumer device market has skyrocketed. There's a shortage of GPUs, but you know, everybody's blaming it on the Bitcoin miners and all that stuff. But what they've seen is a massive rise in home consumers buying equipment. And they're you know, the way they're getting that number is if you go look at the software manufacturers for video games, a lot of them have public databases showing you the number of logins. They've hit peaks they've never seen before. And the only way that's achievable is by more people buying gaming PCs or buying PS4s or PS5s or, you know, whatever. And so there's not necessarily, there is a shortage, but it's not we're underproducing, is we're over consuming equipment like we've never seen before. So, you know, I saw an infographic about Microsoft's online collaboration, right? So like 4 years ago, there was like 17 million users, right? But I think it was early 2021, they went to 120 million users. So that kind of growth is what they're all seeing. I mean, you know, look at Zoom back when we first had COVID start. They were having utilization issues because they had to scale up and scale up. So I don't, you know, I think it's just that we're behind in the demand surge before any of these guys were able to see it. Now, are they making things to happen? Yeah, right. They're making we're actually making new chip manufacturing plants in the United States, which most of the stuff's made overseas, which is cool. It's coming out of the States, but they're not expecting their first chips to roll out of the factory till 2023. So before that's touching your desk, it's 2024, right? So this is going to be around for a while. What that means, we just have to plan ahead, right? You know, we don't wait for that laptop to die. We don't wait for that new employee to start. We might want to get it ordered a month in advance or 2 months in advance. And we're trying to do our best. We're ordering computers way in advance, trying to allow some lag, but the more communication we get from our customers, the more we can plan ahead and pre-order this stuff. So yeah.
Yes, all of our clients will have a budget that will have been presented to them in this past year or not, or going forward. And in that, we have a 3 to 5 year cycle for hardware, or we really work on the 5-year cycle of laptops and desktops and all that kind of stuff. So if we're recommending that you replace something, it's to be in that refresh cycle so that you're not having the issues of potentially having a device that goes down and not being able to be prepared for this. The other thing is that if you are a client, you should have a backup disaster recovery device. And this is really important, that we're going to be making sure that all of our stuff is constantly just at its peak performance, because in the state that a server does go down, a boot up in the cloud on one of those BDRs will allow people to work on it for those that have local servers. So those are things that we're going to be really focusing down on and pushing down on to make sure that our clients don't have loss of productivity because of it. Because in a normal world, when a server goes down, we get you one in a week and everything's, you know, you lose something sometime, but not all of it if you don't have a BDR. In this world, it's 3 months.
Yeah, and I mean, luckily Dell and those guys have pivoted. So now when we're building the computers, you can actually see the lead time per device. So often you can get lucky and change it, whatever, but you don't want to be in a bind. Your organization can't wait. So yeah.
And then when in doubt, that's why we go back to cloud as king, by the way.
Yeah, let's just put it in the cloud for sure.
Okay, one of the next things that we're going to be talking about is a new product that's come out in cybersecurity. We're not quite sure how this is all going to be bundled up inside our current offering. So nobody get nervous yet, but because it is newer and it is something that we're rolling out internally in the next quarter and trialing on ourselves first, but it's called Zero Trust. It's really cool. I'm going to let Whit talk about it though, because I will definitely mess up how this works.
So Zero Trust is basically what it sounds like. So the process typically looks like you load it up in an environment and you collect first and you just monitor, and it's monitoring how things are communicating, right? And they also have a database of how things should communicate. And as soon as something tries to communicate or do something it's not normal, it doesn't normally do, it's blocked. And the cool thing about it is right now, the way the tools work is they wait for bad actors to happen and then they try to catch that activity. These guys you can almost say sandbox. They sandbox every application into allowing it only to do what it's supposed to do. So for example, you're in the browser and you're just goofing off on the internet and you click on a funny kitty photo and that one has got some ActiveX in it that jumps across your computer. Well, this tool would say, that's weird. Chrome should not be even, why is Chrome trying to get into my documents? It shouldn't do that. And what this would be is like, say Google Chrome had a vulnerability that this web page was taking advantage of and going off. So rather than try to detect the activity, these guys are saying, these tools say, no, this is abnormal activity. I'm not even gonna let you go there. That's outside of your wheelhouse. The government's had these tools for a long time. They've actually existed in Zero Trust, down to the point in the government's environment, they depict what version of every application you're allowed to use. So, and if you try to use something else, their tools stop it because it says this is not trusted. It's outside of my normal, right? They're now bringing that stuff down the SMB to a reasonable cost. And like Sarah said, we don't know exactly where it's going to fit in, but it's a really cool technology and a really secure way of locking things down by more control. We do our pause on it, just so everybody knows, is it's going to be more labor intensive to manage because every time a new application comes out or new versions, we have to make sure that that doesn't now cause the application to put the locks down, right? So the tools are building ways into that. We just want to make sure we can see it, but we're really excited about it because it's a very cool security tool we're going to be able to bring down to the customers. So.
Yeah, and we were able to talk to some, cybersecurity kind of the leaders, the front runners that are way above us in MSP before us, I should say. And they said that one of the cool things is that this is one of the last places that really cybersecurity can even go. As in, after this, there won't be much more that they can add to it because this is as locked down as you really potentially could get and still operate functionally. So that's a cool place that we're going to be able to get to go, but we'll let you guys know after we trial it on ourselves and figure out how all that fits into an organization.
Yeah,
Whit, I know it is your favorite topic. I'm going to let you.
I think this is our last one too. So I'll tell my story. I tell everybody. There's one more notice. Yeah. The person who comes out to fix your plumbing at your house had to do a 2-year apprenticeship. They had to get inspected. Their plumbing had to get inspected. Their work had to get inspected. They had to be insured, licensed, and it's a regulated industry, right? There's standards for everything about the way the plumbing works in your home, right? And sometimes I say this, I worry about it. IT, I can literally go print business cards and do IT. Like there's no one observing that. And I know in all of your organizations, the ones your names recognize, there's a lot of risk there. And right now they're lending it to you to decide this is a qualified IT vendor, that this person you can trust, that they're insured, that they've had appropriate training and documentation and policies, procedures. But that's up to you, the consumer, to do when there is so much at risk. And it's typically, obviously it's your lives and your accounts and your bank accounts receivable, but it's also every customer you have, right? So the risk is great. And you have a very, man, I've been going to meet so many new customers right now, and the levels of quote unquote, people's IT that they're receiving is unbelievable. And, I constantly am challenging the team here, and our team is challenging themselves to do a better job and to fill gaps that we find, because we find gaps every day in our processes and procedures, like hands down. I mean, there's weeks where Sarah and I look at each other and it's like, wow, we find all these things, we fix them, we move forward, but we come into our competition or in some in-house IT and they're not there, and they're putting all this stuff at risk. There's no regulation, there's no minimum standards. Yeah, I know HIPAA's out there, but they're not a auditing body. They're only, they only come in when it's already done. When the damage is done, they submit some fines and you go on your way, and you're now on the little, what is it called, honey? The wall of shame.
HIPAA wall of shame.
Go Google that. It's a good read. You'll probably find your providers on there. Anyway, there's no teeth in HIPAA. It's literally just gonna, when you report on it, something happened, right? It needs teeth. The whole industry needs teeth. We have CMMC coming, which is the Department of Defense's minimum standards, and it is going to be audited, it is going to be inspected, and I'm super excited for that. But I think the whole industry needs it. I think if you, potentially have more than so many records, they need it. Like, I'm the point where I'm not ready to start writing to my elected officials and supporting this bill. Insurance companies should get behind it. It's good for you. It's good for the consumer. If your plumber needs to have a license, why shouldn't your IT guy? Some states are talking about it. Louisiana kind of has a light version of it, which is surprising. No offense to Louisianians, but they have a light version of this auditing process beginning. I think it's going to come hard and heavy. We have chosen to start holding our own standards. We have gotten our SOC 2 certification, which is the next slide. And this is a third party that's come in and audited us and looked at our, not just, it's not just about software and what applications you use, it's about processes and procedures, all the way into accounting, right? And evaluating that you're doing that to a standard that's recognized in a level, right? Is it perfect? No, I don't know it's perfect, but at least I know I'm at this level, right? And to get a lot of good feedback from those guys. And not that I think this is the regulating body that's going to become the real thing one day, but I do know it moved us in the right step. And I think everybody's got to think that way.
But like this and like a lot of regulations, they have a NIST framework. And so, Jared's always talking to me very strongly. If you guys don't know Jared, I think all of you guys should on this list. But he's always talking to me very strongly that every single compliance that he's brought people to, their backbone is off of the NIST platform, which this is too. So that's what we continue to move forward on. Because we do believe that it's coming. And honestly, all IT companies should be holding themselves to the standards with the security risks that are coming down to MSPs right now. There should not be one that's not moving forward in these types of areas. Okay, I believe.
Yep.
I didn't think we were going to get through that one. We usually go 45 minutes late, so or 15 minutes late on it. So actually, we have quite a few people here that might have questions about their planning specifically for their next year. Does anyone think? You guys can raise your hands, although, oh yeah, I can allow you to talk. You can raise your hands and I can allow you to talk if you want to talk and ask some of your questions or enter the questions into the chat form. We'll allow for a moment.
Yeah. Who thinks I should get a haircut? I definitely think I should get a haircut. Well, I guess that's it. I appreciate everybody on here. I will say, we're seeing cyber attacks go up. Sadly, I think I haven't gone a week without hearing something, minor to large attempts, and you would be you'll unbelieve the people in your organization, what they will click on. They will click on anything, and it is scary. And you need to be careful. We just met with a organization today that, their IT deficit, as I like to call it, is finally cost them a pretty good chunk of change and a reputation in the community that's now marred forever, right? So, helping them go to correct that, working with the FBI and all that. And if I can stop that from happening to all of you, I'd really like, that'd be a great day, right? Nothing is perfect, but we can do our best. So don't want that. That's a nightmare. So
Okay, well, we'll wrap it up today. We really appreciate you guys coming. We want to honor your time. Again, if you have any questions, shoot them over to us at any time. We'll hop on a phone call with you anytime, anywhere, answer all of your questions. So have a great Thursday, and we'll talk to you guys later.